Sarah, good morning, and you will be the host of Exponential. Tell us a little bit about you and how you first got interested in unmanned systems and robotics.
So good morning, Brett. I'm super excited to be the host for Exponential this year. In fact, we are eagerly looking forward to 3 weeks from now when everything kicks off. My background is in advanced technology of some sort. I was first introduced to the robotics community via ground robotics about 12 years ago when I worked as an associate for Booz Allen Hamilton supporting the U.S. Army TARDEC. And one of my roles was to help with strategy development for advanced energy and also for ground robotics platforms for the Army. So it was a great introduction to the community.
So you've had experience both with ground systems and air systems. How extensive would you say that's been?
Yeah, so I'm an Air Force officer, and my initial career started with fighter jets. I was an F-16 aircraft maintenance officer. So I've always liked the air systems, and I've known a bit about those more than ground. When I joined Booz Allen and focused on the ground vehicles, that was a new foray into a whole different language and philosophy and methodology. I have stayed mostly ground since then. I worked for Pratt Miller Engineering for a while and helped develop our robotic systems, and that's also advanced ground vehicles, so it really was in the ground space. But since joining RAVE Computer, we are a technology enabler for all domains, and high-end compute power for data analytics or AI or machine learning is our business of today, and that supports all domains for sure.
Okay. Now let's talk about RAVE Computer a little bit. So you've been in business for more than 30 years. I know you haven't been there that whole time, but how has the computer industry changed over that time, and where does that kind of fit into the unmanned systems world?
So RAVE is a really interesting story. This is actually our 30th year, so we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year, and that's been pretty fun. One of the things that we've done is created a monthly newsletter to share with our customer base, and our CEO and co-founder, Rick Darter, has been sharing anecdotes of how we got started and what some of the early days looked like and a little bit of our history. And that's been quite an eye-opener for me even. And from the beginning, it really was more of a broker between somebody who had used equipment that they were trying to offload and someone who needed to have that capability but didn't quite want to invest in something new. And that brokerage of used computer equipment is sort of where we started. And then that turned into a reseller of Sun Microsystems. And some people in the audience will remember Sun. For some of them, that will be way too old. But compute equipment originally was, data drives or record drives. It really was some pretty antiquated looking things. And then Sun was just this new, exciting burgeoning into what then became the PC market. And now we really customize and optimize high-end compute solutions for myriad applications. In unmanned systems predominantly, we find that in the data analytics. So all of the sensor suite data that comes off of whatever the platform is has to be processed, it has to be managed, it has to be stored, it has to be recorded. So that high-speed data recording, the direct storage associated with compute, and then really that high-end compute processing is what we do really well.
So it's just, unrecognizable from when the company started to what it's doing today, I would guess.
So for sure, it's a whole different company. And one of the things that's been really exciting in the compute industry really revolves around the idea of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we're at sort of this sweet spot of a time when the algorithms that exist are mature enough and that the processing capacity is also mature enough. I mean, AI has been around for quite some time. It's not new, and you can see some pretty exciting and early examples if you just, Google AI from the 60s, for example. But today, we really can see some leaps and bounds. Another reason is because we have access to vast amounts of data. And what some people don't understand is with AI or with any deep neural network, you have to train that network in some way. And the way to do that are with advanced algorithms, but utilizing a lot of complex, but also a vast amount of data. And that data has to be managed, and it has to be categorized, and it has to be label processed. So clean data is really what you need to be able to do that. And part of the process of getting things ready to train is making sure that your data set is in fact a good or a clean data set. And that's pretty intensive in and of itself too. But this is a really very cool sweet spot of mature algorithms, very high-end processing, and then access to vast amounts of data that just make it a really exciting time for AI in general.
Okay. And so based on that background and your own background with government and commercial markets, where do you see the industry going in the next few years? I guess more AI cutting through that big data, or what other things do you see on the horizon?
Yeah, I think on the DoD side specifically, there's going to be a big push for how do we utilize this capability well, just to make our analysts smarter. And I think a lot of that will be in the ISR related fields. Across the board, it's pretty exciting in general. I can remember a couple of years ago when we were thinking about unmanned cars or driverless cars or machine-driven cars, whatever label you wanted to put on that. And gosh, that's just going to change the way we fundamentally live. I think about the cell phone and how that fundamentally changed the way we communicate with each other, the way we execute our days, the way we plan or don't plan until the last second. I think that having access to cars that are more of a tool versus something that we then have to manage, but something that augments our day is really going to fundamentally change the way we work and interact. And I'm pretty excited for what that looks like. I think in all places, unmanned systems will make forays into our lives. The biggest one that I see impacting us in the US, though, is driverless cars. I don't see necessarily the healthcare industry really picking up on some of those health home robot type things, although I think that that could be sort of a next step, especially as our boomers continue to age.
Switching to XPONENTIAL, what are some things that you kind of hope to highlight or to get across during the exhibition?
So I'm pretty excited about XPONENTIAL this year because we started several years ago the idea of this women and diversity in robotics. This will be our third year of having a special session for that at XPONENTIAL. It's continued to grow each year, and I expect it'll continue to grow this year as well. I'm really excited just to open dialogue and to have some mentoring and sharing among executives and then members of the community about really a whole lot of issues that affect women and diversity. Some of them are topics really geared towards that, and some of them are topics that affect the entire industry, but that there might be some sort of a special perspective that we might have. And I'm excited to continue that dialogue.
That's been increasingly popular, like you said. So you find from your feedback from that, you find it's helpful and people are able to go out to their own communities and continue that work?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, half of the population, just generally speaking, are women. And yet we have such a limited percentage that's represented in the tech fields, but then in robotics specifically, and especially at the higher echelons of leadership. And so when we have access to these women who have really, I don't know, just been trailblazers in our community, and especially in their particular companies, I think just the group in our robotics community now that's attending XPONENTIAL, having access to just have some regular dialogues or to get some advice or to hear perspectives of what their journeys were like is pretty important, just in terms of the professional development of all of us in the community. It's nice. It's nice to have a mentor or a role model when they look a little bit like you, or when you can understand that they had some of the challenges that you might face today. That's always helpful. From a company perspective, from a RAVE perspective, I'm really excited about XPONENTIAL this year because we'll be at the show. We're also speaking at one of the technical presentations associated with how you can use high-end computing for data analytics, for processing and managing all of this data that you're getting from your unmanned systems. There's such vast capability that's available for the systems themselves and what they can do and what difference it can make, but smartly being able to do something with that data that you've been collected versus just keeping it in some, you know, Indiana Jones storage facility is really what's going to make the difference. And I'm excited for RAVE to be a technology enabler that way.
Great. Well, I know we're all very excited for the show and excited to have you as host because you've been around with us in the industry for a long time. So it's great. It'll be great to have you up on stage kind of leading the parade.
Thanks very much. I am definitely excited. Energy and enthusiasm is what I'm told I bring to the fight. So hopefully I'll be able to do that at Exponential too.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Brett, thanks. I appreciate it.